Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I have virtually in front of me our next guest, Vanessa. She is all things money coach. So you're going to learn a lot from her. I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to talk about some financial goals. I've been sharing on social media about some stuff I've been going through, and I've been really struggling personally and professionally with managing finances and making bad decisions and bad investments. And Vanessa reached out to me and we had a conversation, and even that one conversation was helpful. So I figured, why not have her on the podcast? So Vanessa, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Happy to have you. First question, always the same question for all of my guests. It's 3 parts. Who are you? What do you do? And most importantly, why do you do what you do?
Awesome. Well, like you said, I'm Vanessa Habben. I work for Craig Dacey Financial Coaching, and we have 2 different sides of our business, and I happen to get to work on both sides. So we do personal finance. So I do coaching with couples and individuals to get out of and break that paycheck to paycheck cycle, to establish some spending values, to help them just kind of gain confidence in managing their money. And then we also have a business side where I am a certified profit first professional. And so I work with service-based businesses and I help them to establish a business money management system that can continually creates a profit and pays the owner a livable wage. And so I get the privilege of doing both of those things, and I absolutely love it. What I love about that is I grew up kind of with my own money stories, my own money scripts, my own money pitfalls. And I had kind of this turning point in about 2016 where I just kind of went, there's things I don't know, and I'm sick of living on the offense or on the defense. I felt like I was just dodging one bullet after another. And instead of just retreating, I actually went, okay, there's things I don't know and I need to learn them. And I kind of set out on this quest. I used therapy. I took a bunch of different classes, gained a lot of insight into how to manage money well, how to spend well. Like there's so much out there on how to save and just not much on how to spend. And so I worked on my own money scripts, my own money ghosts, and I've seen the way that that's transformed my life. And I love being able to help people do that. I also worked in the nutrition space for a while as kind of the right-hand man to, a sole proprietor, somebody who was trying to build a business, trying to go from being a one-on-one coach to building a team. And there's a lot of things financially. There's so many things vying for your time and vying for your money, lots of coaching programs, lots of different coaches. And I watched all these different coaches come and go that were affecting our program, but there was never anybody that was looking out for the finances of the program. And so, learning what I know now, I wish I could take that back. I wish I could go back into that situation and help make a change and make a difference. And so because I can't go back in time, I can only go forward. And so now I love the opportunity to help other people, to empower them to feel confident about their money, to have businesses that thrive, to know how much they can spend on coaching, how much they can spend on marketing help. And so that's a lot of what I do, and I love doing it.
Yeah, I love it. And you can tell that you're passionate about it, and you know what you're doing. It's always nice to hear from someone who enjoys the work they're putting in. So yeah, super nice. Awesome. Okay. So, I probably feel like you've heard and seen a lot. So let's maybe start on the personal side of things, and then we'll talk about business stuff later. But what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making when they come to you, trying to work on their finances? What are some of the things that they're usually doing that it's you kind of tell them, no, do this instead, or don't do that?
A lot of people, I feel like they intend well, they mean well, they try to do something that is the quote unquote right thing to do. And it doesn't go well. And then they just bury their heads in the sand. Right. Mm-hmm. And so instead of going, hey, I tried this one thing and it didn't work, they kind of go, and so I'm going to try something else. They go, I tried this thing, it didn't work. And now I'm just going to go back to what I was doing before. Or, I know you work in the nutrition space, so many similarities between nutrition and finances. And so you have the people who come in that are like, essentially the financial version of a crash diet, right? Like, oh, I've been spending this. And so now I'm going to spend nothing and I'm not going to treat myself to anything. And I'm not going to buy the things that I love buying. And eventually it doesn't take very long before that wears thin and they're back to what they were doing before. And so I think it's a lot of that kind of stuff, like making sure when you're making changes that they're sustainable changes, that they're realistic changes. And knowing that ride is not always smooth and not everything is going to go right. And you've got to try some different things before you find what works for you, because, the plan that works for somebody else might not work for you. And so what I love to do with my clients is kind of ask them, what feels good to them. And then we try something. And if it doesn't work, we try something else. We don't just give in. We don't throw in the towel. We make sure that we're finding a system and a plan and an intentional money spending program, or, something that they've designed to spend their money intentionally that actually fits for them.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So, when someone comes to you and what would you say they usually are coming to you because you mentioned a really good thing where you said people know how to save, but they don't know how to spend. I really want to kind of elaborate on that a little bit. What do you help people recognize as considered a good spend versus not a good spend, I guess?
I think, one of the exercises that I love to do that we do really early on in our program is a values exercise. And so it's helping people get clear on what they value and then aligning your spending to that. And so if you don't really value driving through the drive-through, then why do we keep doing that? Right? Because it's habit, because we just don't even think about it, because it's easy, because whatever. And so when we get clear on our values, we can help to move our spending into into alignment with that. Right. It's kind of like when somebody said, what do they say? Show me your bank account and your calendar and I'll tell you what's important to you. And so many people, they don't even look at it. And so they don't even know if what they're spending aligns with what they value. Mm-hmm. And when you align your spending with your values and you cut out the things that aren't as important, you have more money to spend.
Right.
On the things that are important to you,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I feel like you probably also do a lot of mindset work with people.
Absolutely.
Right? I feel like we could talk strategy, but I'm sure you probably come up with a lot of because as you were talking, I'm sometimes when you're really in the thick of it and you want to be out of it so bad, I feel like I did everything you're describing. I cut back all of my spending as much as I could. But there was a point where actually just recently I was even considering stopping, a gym membership in total, not going. And that's so nutrition and fitness and exercise is so important to me. And I just had this aha moment. I was okay, this will be my last month. And I had the best workout ever. I'm such a high. Of course. I'm I can't, no, this is important to me. So rather than me cutting out something that I love, I'm instead looking for ways to I can cut back in other areas and make room for this. But it's hard to do, right?
It is.
You have those honest conversations with yourselves too. And there are times, trust me, I'm sure, I don't know if you've ever worked with somewhere you're kind of just I understand that you love it, but maybe this isn't for you, or maybe you need to find a different way to, go to the gym or whatever, or a different membership or whatnot.
Yeah. Cause you're fine. It has to fit within what's real for your finances too. So, right. So if my value is flying first class to Europe and I don't have any money, then that doesn't really work either. Right. So exactly. It's bringing your income in line with that too. Right. Some people you need a different job or you need to be doing something different. And it is so much of it is mindset work. It's habit formation. It's all those kinds of things. I am also a licensed life coach, or a certified life coach. And so I do bring a lot of life coaching into it too. It's a lot of, let's look forward with your finances. So many people are also living just paycheck to paycheck, day to day, month to month, instead of that bigger picture. And so, a lot of what we do in coaching is just help people think bigger, right? Mm-hmm. Think bigger about your finances, think bigger about, where you're going. And sometimes, we get stuck, we get stuck in our habits, we get stuck in our job, we get stuck in these different things, and we're afraid to take those big moves. And sometimes it just requires a big move. Sometimes it requires selling a house. Sometimes it requires getting a new job. Sometimes it requires doing something that's big and scary. But if we don't do it, the alternative is that you just stay where you are.
Right. Or worse.
Or worse. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know exactly when I'm releasing this podcast, because you guys know I record ahead of time, but I might record some solo episodes before or after. But if not, this is the first time you guys are going to hear that I made this scary but smart, very smart financial decision to actually move back with my parents, which I never, literally ever in my entire 33 years of living. Well, actually, that's a lie. When I was 18, I left, I went to college, and then I never came back. I moved to Brooklyn. I moved to West. I've been all over the map. The last thing I would ever want to do is move back with my parents. Not because they're not amazing. They are, but who wants to live with your parents at 33 when you've established your independence for whatever, But that was the radical change. I think I was trying so hard to cut back here, cut back there. But just realistically, no matter how much I cut back, I just wasn't able to get ahead. And I had to make that big, scary decision but I also just had to face it. I had to be honest with myself of where I was at and where I wanted to be and where I want to be. Right. And so I feel like I think working with a coach, you probably, I'm assuming you just show people the reality, and it's mm-hmm. hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, it's but you kind of have to face it. Right. I kind of, I do relate a lot to and I don't really focus on weight too much with my clients, but I do also have a lot of people that come to me where they don't want to even know how much they weigh. They don't want to even get on the scale. They don't want to face the fact. And it's it's not the weight per se that's unhealthy. It's the habits that they've been doing that have led to them to be at this size that they're unhappy with. But you still got to face it, because if you don't face it, it's only going to get worse. You're never going to get better. Right. So
absolutely.
I totally hear that. What are some of the healthy habits with money that you might try to encourage some of your clients to take on? So what are some, what can our listeners maybe start doing that might benefit them?
Definitely intentional spending, right? To really think about, I learned this when I was working in the nutrition coaching space, because we would talk to people about, eating. You go to a buffet and you're going to eat the things, right? Should I have the cupcake? Should I not have the cupcake? And we gave this parameter of is it a hell yeah? If it's a hell yeah, then eat it. And if it's not, then don't. And I think so often we make purchases and we look at things and we go, yeah, I could get that. Before I went through kind of this financial transformation, I used to just walk the inside aisles at Target, where it's all on clearance, and be oh, I could use that. Oh, I could need this. I could have that, and I would fill my cart with stuff I didn't really need at all, or even really want, but it was just, that girl math. It was a good deal because it was on sale or whatever it is. And so, being more intentional and raising your standard for what you're going to spend your money on, one of the things that we have in our family is we have our money rules. And so we kind of have rules of this is when we moved into our house. So we moved into a new house a couple years ago, and we had a rule, and it was, we will spend more on things that hold our weight. So, we put extra attention and extra money into things like a mattress or a couch, but anything else, a coffee table, those things, most of them we got IKEA, Amazon, right? So we set this kind of parameter for ourselves where it gave us an allowance to spend on the things that were important to us, but then to also to not spend a bunch of money on something that didn't really matter. I didn't need a $2,000 coffee table. I could have that's just not something that I value. Right. So that was one of the rules that I set. And so, things like that, where you're setting an intention, and then your intention also has to match what's in your accounts. So making sure that your bills are all paid before anything else, setting aside a certain amount of money. We teach our clients to use kind of a 3-account system. And so you have like the one account that pays all your bills. You have one account that is your spending account. So when you go to buy things, you just use that account. And then you have like what's left would go into a savings account. And so, separating your money out, even on the business side, we do this. With Profit First, it's like 5 different bank accounts. And so you're essentially eating off of smaller plates, right? So when you say, okay, I'm going to spend $1,200 as my spending this month on discretionary spending, gas, groceries, getting my hair cut, eating out, or whatever that is, right? And you transfer that to an account, and then you just have to stay within that. And that can be super, super helpful for people to just know, like, this is my allotted amount, and I've got to pace myself until I get more money into that account. But if I have extra money in there, like, sure, I'll drive through Starbucks. But if I don't, then I need to go home to make my coffee, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I had to interrupt this episode to tell you that Tips with Tony is now accepting insurance. If you have a nutrition goal and you were wanting to improve your health and wellness, but finances have been the thing holding you back, well, that is no longer a barrier. So email me, tipswithtony@gmail.com. Let me know that you're ready to work and you're ready for change and you want to do it. And if you want to do it through insurance, you want to make sure I take your insurance. I'm going to ask you these things. So if you want to just email me first, cool. But if you want to go ahead and be proactive, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to need from you. I'm going to need a picture front and back of your insurance card. I'm going to need to know what state you're from. I'm going to need to know your full name and your date of birth. I will check with the benefits company that I'm working with. They will let me know what's covered, how much is covered. For some people, 100% of their nutrition sessions have been covered. So we'll just go, we'll do a check, and hopefully that is how I'm going to be able to serve you best in 2024. But it does not hurt to ask. So if you're listening to this, this is a sign. Reach out, tipswithtony@gmail.com. Send me your insurance information, and let's see if we can work together. Okay, back to the episode.
Honestly, I love the method, but I'm like already overwhelmed thinking about it, because like that, it's like, I get it's supposed to free you up, but it almost feels like then there's not going to be the money for the things that I want to do, Like, it's crazy. It's really crazy how our brains like just like screw with us a little bit.
Well, and that goes back to scarcity, right?
Yeah.
To scarcity, that like, there's not enough. I don't have enough. Will I have enough? And some of that is helped over time when you're managing it. So it's really easy to have scarcity thoughts and scarcity feelings when you don't know what you're looking at, right? If I never log into my bank, like, there's 2 types of people. There's the types that are like, I have $1 million. I don't even have to worry about it. And then there's the other types that are like, oh my gosh, do I have any? I don't really know. Am I going to be able to pay my bills? Am I not going to be able to pay my bills? And so when you don't have a system, you can't really build that belief, that trust in yourself. And so you're kind of left on this cliff of anxiety. Yeah. And so when you have a system and it's running and it's working, and you know that, hey, if I take this out, all my bills are getting paid. And I know, I have some clients who transfer weekly, some who transfer monthly, like, and I know, hey, I have this money and I'm going to get it every week, or I'm going to get it every month. And you start to build that skill, just like anything, you have to build the skills. So you have to practice it. It's super clunky and awkward at first. It's like a toddler trying to walk, right? So you might put that money into your account and you might spend it all before the next time, the first time, the second time, the third time, for a little while, as you're kind of stumbling and getting used to it. And eventually you get in your rhythm, and eventually you start to figure out, like, okay, I can trust that this is going to be there. I can trust that I can manage this. But, nobody teaches us how to manage our finances. There are things out there, but most of us don't really have good education on what to do with this. We feel like we should just know because we became an adult, and it just doesn't work that way. And so, as adults, most people don't like to not be good at things, right? So when you try it and you're not good at it, you're like, well, forget it. I'll just ignore it. Like, that's been working for me for the last 30 years, and you move forward. But if you can stop and practice it and kind of go through, you have to get through that that dip of change before kind of that aha moment and things start to get better. If you can be patient enough and diligent enough to make it through that, then that's how you start to build that confidence in yourself and get rid of that scarcity.
Yeah, I love that. It's so similar to nutrition. It's crazy because that's exactly
crazy.
it. Like when you tell yourself like you can't have something or you shouldn't have it, but then you feel guilty for having it and you're kind of just all over the place. It's like they go, I always say you need structure, but not restriction, because a lot of people go to restriction because it's the only thing they know how to do. But really what you need is structure, and you really have to work through the uncomfortable moments, and you're going to have to in the beginning, it's going to feel really unsure about what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. But the more you focus on the consistency of building that relationship with your body and, honoring hunger and fullness cues and all that stuff, like eventually then it becomes easy, like after that. So I totally relate to what you're saying. One thing I want to transition to now is kind of like the business side of things, because I feel like when there's always pros and cons, right? Like as an entrepreneur, you can make a ton of money. And like, you're not really capped, but like you could have 1 month where you bring in, thousands of dollars, and the next month nothing comes in. Whereas like someone who has kind of like a standard, like 9 to 5 or whatnot, they know what they're getting each week, but they might not be able to like max their income depending on like the career path they're in or whatever. So I guess like, how does somebody who kind of is like on the business side of things where like each month is different, how do they plan and allocate and all that stuff? Like, what advice do you have for the business owner?
So we work with Profit First, the Profit First system, which, your traditional system says your income minus your expenses equals your profit. And in Profit First, we flip that on its head. And so we do your income minus your profit equals your expenses. And I think where so many people get caught up is that whole idea of you have to just keep investing in the business. You have to just keep investing in the business. And there's this elusive profit somewhere in the future, right? And if you can just get to X amount of dollars, or if you can just get to so much revenue, then you'll have a profit. And the reality is that with the Profit First system, you can start from day one allocating a profit to your business. And so that's what we teach people to do. You can get the Profit First book. It explains it all, but it's through there's different percentages based on how much you're making and how much you're bringing in. And I work with my clients. We do a weekly allocation, right? So everything that they made for the week gets dropped into one account, and then it gets separated out by percentages. And what's nice about this, I think so many people that are business owners, we have this saying, right? Like someone they open a bakery because they're really good at making cakes. They don't necessarily open a bakery because they're really good and want to run a bakery, right? And so you find these people, especially in service-based businesses, they're like, kind of those very giving, very generous type of people. And so they're like, it's okay if I don't make any money for XYZ. I mean, for however long. I have one client who was a coach that hasn't made money in 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. And there's this idea of like, there's also this like the martyr of entrepreneurship, right? Like it's supposed to be hard and I'm supposed to make no money and it's supposed to be this, but at some point you got to come out of that. And there's never a plan to come out of that. And so that's what Profit First does, is it gives you a plan, from the beginning. Most people don't start with it at the beginning that I'm coaching, right? Most of them are coming in going, I've been doing this for a long time and I made money, but I'm not seeing any of it. And so, Profit First tells you this is what you have to spend on expenses, rather than everything that's coming in, then we're going to spend it all. And then what's left is going to be our profit. Right. And so I see a lot of people, especially in this coaching space, where it's like, oh, there's this really great marketing coach and this really great, business coach and this really great this coach. And they have no method of determining what they can afford and who they can afford to hire at what point. Mm-hmm. Right. And so what ends up getting sacrificed is the owner's pay, right? Like any savings cushion that would actually like help you sleep better at night. Like all those things end up getting sacrificed for the sake of the business. And, it's really hard to pull out of that.
Yeah.
Really hard. Yeah.
And also, like, the other thing that's really prominent in, I know, particularly in like the coaching space, on like the online coaching space, and not even just nutrition, but like every business model, is this whole idea of charging your credit cards with money you don't have. Because if you invest in this coach, they're going to get you that money back and some. And there have been times where 100% charged my credit card, joined a program, coach was amazing, helped me navigate, made the money back and some. Totally. It really has happened. Yeah. But then as I've been in business longer, I'm realizing I just kind of got lucky. Like, because there's some, I mean, seriously though, like, and also too, after a certain level, you kind of learn it all. And it's not really like, it's not like these coaches are telling you anything different, you know, you kind of are just now investing because you're just holding on to hope. And I guess, and there's a lot of like people out there that you really can't trust, unfortunately. And I know a lot of people struggle, even people listening to this podcast that aren't in business, that they've been burned by nutrition coaches that have claimed that they can help them and blah, blah, blah. And like, they've charged their credit cards and like, that's not even like a monetary value back, right? That's just like wasted money, you know, although I don't believe everything is a waste of money because you get experience from it. But point being, how do you help someone navigate, I guess, knowing if it is a good investment? Right. An investment is something that was going to give you something back in the future. Right. So like, do you ever suggest someone uses a credit card with money they don't have to get out of debt, let's say, if it's not, you know, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm asking, but I feel like I'm just venting right now because it's just such a crazy concept that I think has gotten so popular. And also like the more you're in business and the more money you make, obviously, yeah, the investments are bigger, but they don't line up a lot of the times. Like the investments that people are making don't make sense for a business. Like, you know, I don't know. I just totally did. But I'd love to hear
that's okay.
your perspective on that.
I would say, you know, there is some risk involved in owning a business and running a business, right? And there is sometimes that upfront collateral. I have clients who took out HELOCs so that they could open their businesses. And, you know, if the return on the investment is there and makes sense, then, you know, sometimes that is a viable option. You know, you're looking at something that is future, you know, forward focused, but the problem comes in, and I think there are some really great coaches. I think there's probably really great coaching programs. I think there are a lot of things that are worth your time and your money to invest in. But the problem comes in, it's almost like, you know, it's almost like a college, like how college degrees work, right? So if you're going to spend a ton of money on student loans to get this degree that's going to make you hardly anything, it doesn't really make sense. Right. You know, and so sometimes it might be in your business, you know, if your business is moving along and it's growing and it's doing well, and you want to sign up for this coaching program or you want to do this thing, like maybe it's something even that you save for. So there's a lot of this like just jumping in off the deep end. Yeah. And then there's this, I wasn't prepared for it. Your expectations are really high when you pay kind of that high ticket price. And you know, you're left feeling strapped and frustrated. And so, you know, as business owners, as people who are starting this, as, you know, people who are coaching other people, the business stuff is just not the business finance stuff is just not your forte. And that's, you know, and that's where having a coach or having a profit advisor on your side is really helpful, because that person can talk with you about like, okay, does this make sense? And is right now the time? You know, so much of it is driven by feeling. I feel like this will help me, or I feel like this is going to be the thing, or I feel like this. And our feelings, I mean, not to discount them, but they're not always accurate.
Right. Yeah.
Our feelings are not really great at finances either. And so, you know, that part of it, I think it's so easy to get wrapped up in the emotion of, you know, this is the thing. This is the thing that's going to launch me, or this is the thing that's going to help me, or this is the thing that's going to grow my business. And as a business owner, you want to scale so badly, right? And you want to grow and you want to do these things. You don't want to be in the same place a year from now, but most people don't know what that path looks like, right? They don't scale at the right time, or they don't invest in the right things at the right time. And so, as a profit coach, we talk about all those things. Anything that affects profit is something that I'm coaching people through. So it's a lot of how are we preparing to make the first hire, or to hire more staff, or to, move someone into a management role. And so all of those kinds of things, there's really not a comprehensive coaching program that does that in this online coaching space, right? Yeah. You have a lot of people that are like, here's how to make your social media better, or here's how to, get leads, or here's how to do these other things. But none of that is looking out for your financial well-being, right? And none of them are asking, does this fit into your financial plan at all, right? And so that's where having a financial ally can be so helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even just having conversations around it, I think it's so beneficial. Even our conversation now, I know people listening to this are going to probably look at their finances. It's, and be more intentional with them. And, it's important to keep things top of mind. So with that said, I know that there's the Profit First book. Where can people find you, or, get more information so that this type of information is top of mind for them?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, if you are a business owner, we have a quiz on our website where you can see what your business should be paying you. So based on what you're bringing in, it'll just ask you a couple different questions, and then it'll kind of spit out, this is the percentage that you should be taking home. Most people that I talk to and most people that do that quiz are nowhere near that.
Yeah.
Right? And
right now, I don't need a quiz to tell me that.
You can find the quiz at quiz.craigdacey.com. And, you can just go in there, fill out your information. And you can find me, and you can find more information about what we do on the personal and the business side at craigdacy.com. That's CRAIGDACY.com.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to put that in the show notes.
Awesome.
Anything else you want to add before you wrap up?
I don't think so.
Awesome. Okay. Well, this has been great. Guys, make sure you go to the link in the show notes to get more information. And if you have any questions, I'm sure that you can reach out directly to Vanessa and she will answer them for you. Wow, that was it. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome.
As always, this is Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.